Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Wednesday night. Tonight, it's the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series for the last race of the regular season. Season 7's been a good one so far. Plenty of different drivers, but tonight, Charlotte is the destination to figure out who's in the playoffs and who's out for that of the Speed Shirt Labs 225 at Charlotte. Certainly should be a good one as the drivers are set and prepared. We got the right schemes on the right cars, so that means we are good to go to give you all the action here on Wednesday night on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me up booth is going to be Joshua Altis. Josh, coming off of last week, Dover, certainly a difficult track for the league, but we got a brand new winner in Douglas Newbigging, and now it's crunch time. Who's going to make the top 16 into the playoffs and who's not?
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. Great to be with you tonight. And you said it, man. It's crunch time. Came off a wild race last week at Dover. Douglas Newbiggin able to find himself in victory lane and officially lock himself into the playoffs. But tonight we've got a lot of different agendas. We got several guys that can still point their way in. Of course, if you win and you're in, as long as you're in the top 25 in points. So I think we're going to have a really fun show tonight.
We're excited for the show to begin. Coming into tonight, we've had 8 different winners, but one of them is in a different story from most. As if you're in the top 25 in points, you have a win, you're automatically locked into the playoffs. One driver racing tonight who looked to be getting a spectacular finish for himself last week, Ryan Kelly, going to be coming into tonight's race 30th in points. He's got a long shot if he's going to be making it into the playoffs, as he's got to march his way and earn over 11 points, if possible, to march his way into the top 25. But with how fast the 3 has been at past tracks, wouldn't be surprised if he's able to do it. And then other drivers, it's points your way in with the most recent being told by us right before the race began. Cole Sacchetti will not be running for the playoffs. He has relinquished his spot, so that bumps our cut line down to now 17th in points. 17th, which is technically now turned into 16th in points in our cutoff line. It is tied by 2 drivers. Ali Fonseca and Brian Noel are tied for that bubble spot, and behind them, 10 points back, Danny Cochran needing a spectacular run for himself. 11 points back is James Keeter. And there are plenty of others that are looking for a chance to make it into the playoffs, but most of those drivers might be in a must-win scenario as qualifying's underway. It's Brian Nelson. It's going to be that of, Ben Nelson, top of the board currently, as some drivers that are hoping for some good nights. Brian with an I, Johnson, who's trying to still look for that first win this season. Same for Larry Yingling and Zach Hall, the 3 most winningest drivers in this series, still looking for their first win. But Josh, this racetrack, Charlotte, it's free. Once you get your subscription, it's one of the free tracks you don't have to do an extra purchase for. When you get iRacing, what are you expecting for these drivers at a course like this one?
Well, I expect a lot of confidence, Sam, because like you said, this is a free track. So if, as any iRacer kind of starts their career here, so it feels like a home track to many of these drivers. And, I think a lot of these guys will be confident that they, a little bit of familiarity. And I think it's just going to be so fun to watch, because not only are we going to have a battle for a win tonight, but there's going to be so many different battles and agendas throughout the field that we're going to do our very best to keep everybody updated on. But it's I think it's just going to be a very interesting night to see, what happens, who gets the win, who gets in the playoffs.
And it looks to be around that of 26, 27 drivers expected to run here tonight, which is automatically going to be putting some drivers in a must-win scenario if they're going to be having a chance to run for a championship. And just by starting tonight's race, it also looks like it will be automatically locking in a few drivers with Christopher Norris and Joshua Kanata. They've got so many points. All they had to do tonight was just show up, run a lap, and they are into the playoffs, which is locking in 13 drivers into this race before the playoffs even start. Giving us a window of 4 drivers still having an opportunity, and those 4 drivers that are in the hot seat tonight: Nick Crawford, Ken Campbell, Ali Fonseca, Brian Noel. Those are your cutoff. Those are your 4 drivers that are in the playoffs currently. As qualifying, just got a minute left. It's Nelson, top of the board. Shane Terry going to be in second. Ryan with a Y Johnson in third, and that of the 3 machine of Ryan Kelly moving up to 4th place just on the first lap for the 3 machine.
Yeah, Ryan Kelly was one of those stories last week, Sam. It was just unbelievable watching him, run up front all night long, and then just one incident at the very end of the race, he finished way, way back, and put himself in a kind of a scary situation here where he's got to go out and perform tonight to get himself in the top 25 if he wants to run for a championship.
Open for it, but is going to be staying in fourth currently, as Larry Yingling also going to be just staying in fifth place. Last driver tried to put a qualifying time in, and it might be just a one-lap dash, as Zach Hall has got 20 seconds, less than 20 seconds for another lap. That's not going to count. This is it for Zach Hall in the 32. Where will he be placed as he crosses the line? With 10 seconds left in qualifying, fourth place for Zach Hall. Larry Yingling up to second for himself. Some late bloomers on how the checkerboard was gonna move. And starting in the back, gonna be last week's winner of Douglas Newbigging. He's gonna have a long road. Actually, 26 drivers, expected to run here this evening. It's the last race of the regular season, and it's time to see who will make the playoffs. 16 drivers make it in. If you're in the top 25 in points and you get into victory lane, you will be finding yourself locked into the playoffs. And as the drivers are gritting up, it's time for us to take a look at our qualifying results, sponsored by Colley's Mom. Ready, Colley's Mom, always hoping for a great qualifying run by the one machine here tonight. Going to be in the top 10 as the 79 of Benjamin Nelson going to be taking the top of the board to start tonight's race off. Larry Yingling going to be in second. Shane Tarian, our regular season points leader, going to be in third. Zach Hall in fourth. Brian P. Johnson in fifth. Ryan Kelly sixth. Isaiah Sutherland, one of the drivers, kind of in a must-win scenario if he's going to make the playoffs. Going to be in seventh. Eighth is Nolan Hicks with Nick Crawford. Ninth and 10th goes the one machine of Brandon Colley.
And just outside the top 10, starting 11th will be the number 21 of Ross Tatum. Starting 12th will be the 18 of James Heater. James is one of those guys looking to try to point his way in tonight, so he's rolling off 12th. Starting 13th will be Ken Campbell. 14th is our current bubble driver of Brian Noel, starting 14th. Joshua Canada will roll off 15th. To his outside will be Christopher Wade, starting 16th. Ollie Fonseca will start 17th. Cedric Hunter will start 18th. Christopher Norris will start 19th. And running up the top 20 will be Kyle Rochelle.
21st is going to be the 27 of Jonathan Cogswell. 22nd position, Mason Cassidy, James Kaufman. 23rd, Tyler Dangler coming back to race for the 19 and 24th. 25th is Brian with an I Johnson. And last week's winner, Douglas Newbigging, not able to put a time in, but will be the 26th driver to be running here tonight. Benjamin Nelson with today's qualifying and taking the pole will be his third pole of the season. His first one with back at Darlington, and then also grabbed his second pole of the season at North Wilkesboro, and tonight being the most pole sitters gained in the regular season. There was about 3 or 4 drivers tied with 2 poles this season. Well, his third for Benjamin Nelson tops onto the board, as the drivers are going to be extending, looks like, for a little bit here for this start of the race, as the 14 of Isaiah Sutherland is going to be having a penalty. But there's a long string of drivers you're going to be seeing listed off the board. Penalties with an EOL having to start at the end of the line, and other penalties that were given out: a 1-race suspension to Aaron Kralik, potentially wrecking a driver last week at Dover. And I'm not surprised, Josh, when we look back at last week's race, there were plenty of incidences, the drivers arc breaking. Some, it was too many incidences involved with drivers causing cautions. Some, it was arc breaking that forced this long chain of end-of-the-line penalties to start tonight's race.
Yeah, I mean, let's just call it what it is. It was honestly just kind of a mess last week, Sam. And, I don't think that's very indicative on what this league is. And I think, that's why the hammer was brought down on some of these guys, because they know better, they can race better. And, I think moving forward, especially tonight, I think we'll be in for a good, clean night.
Yeah, I mean, the field is going to be, again, extending for an extra lap, so we're going to be able to go around one more time. And tonight's race, again, it is the Speed Shirt Laps 225 here at Charlotte. We're going to be running 150 laps. We will have a competition caution either at the end of lap 40, or if there's a caution before lap 40, that will count as our competition caution. No fast repairs. 5 sets of tires in pit road. That's something I kind of want to circle up on, Josh. 5 sets, a lot of sets to work with 150 laps, but are you expecting them to be used here tonight?
It just kind of depends on how the race plays out, Sam. I think if we get a couple early cautions potentially, I think that'll open the door for some guys to come in and put a set of tires on, maybe get off strategy from the leaders. But if this race goes, clean and green for the most part, it's probably not going to be a lot of opportunities to put those tires on. So, having those extra sets just means you have, a little bit more tools to work with if you get some of those cautions.
Charlotte, a track that's had a lot of different opportunities for drivers to have some good runs, some others. But we look past trends, cautions. This track has ran 3 times in the past. This is season 7 for the WSSR Cup Series. And back in season 2 was the first time that they had 3 cautions. Season 4 was the second time they ran 4 cautions. And season 5 was the last time that they ran. There were 4 cautions there as well. Cedric Hunter, the most recent winner back in season 5, only led 3 laps. But on the opposite side in season 4, Brian P. Johnson led the most laps and also got into victory lane, dominating by leading 135 laps of 160. Could we need to go into overtime? Time will tell, but the drivers are set. Pace car lights are off. The drivers have been lined up where they need to be, and it's time for us for some green flag action. For the Speed Shirt Laps 225, the last race of the regular season. It's your WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. Last race of the regular season is underway as Benjamin Nelson, Larry Yingling side by side as they roar down into turn number 1.
Looks to be a pretty clean start. Looks like Benjamin Nelson and Larry Yingling's going to be to his outside. He's not going to give it to him. Larry Yingling's going to fight back as they head down the backstretch.
Larry with a better run on the outside lane, going to have the nose ahead for now. Driver did have to start on pit road. That's Christopher Norris dealing with a start in pit road penalty. So 38, hoping that he doesn't go a lap down, but already 10 seconds back as lap number 1 going to head to the hands of the 67. Larry Yingling leads lap 1, and this has got to be a good feeling for the driver that won the inaugural race here at Charlotte back in season 2. Hoping to get back into victory lane first time this season. What momentum you could carry with being the last driver to win before the playoffs start.
Well, that's exactly right, Sam. And let's talk about these agendas for a second. All these different guys that are in the middle of fighting for points and must wins. And Larry Yingling, he's locked in the playoffs, but he does not have that win yet this year. So, this is kind of a free race for some of those guys to go out and try to get a win and get some momentum heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, with seeing Christopher Norris and also Joshua Kanata out on track, they both, because they've been on track for at least a lap, have officially been locked into the playoffs. There's not enough points for them to be bumped out. So congratulations to the 16 and the 38. That is going to be 12th and 13th in points that have been locked in. Now there's only 4 spots to be grabbed. And again, those drivers to watch out for: Nick Crawford, Ken Campbell, Ollie Fonseca, Ryan Noel. Going to be the 4 drivers that are inside the playoffs. Then it's Danny Cochran and James Heater that have the best points ways, and I believe approximately the amount of points and positionings that you can take to get into the playoffs, but it's going to need a lot of help if you're the 77 who had a fabulous run last week, finishing in the top 3. He's going to need another performance like that and a little bit of luck to find himself in the playoffs.
Yeah, I can't imagine the nerves coming in tonight, Sam. Both Ollie Fonseca and Brian Noel being right there on the cutoff line. You got to kind of just put your head down and try to treat it as a normal race, and just remember what's kind of gotten you here to this point, and not try to overthink it is the biggest thing. So, yeah, doing a good job so far. Everyone's clean and green, and it's right outside the top 10 to Brian Noel right now.
Brian Noel having a great run, and also to the fact that Danny Cochran not showing up here tonight, it gives that opportunity a little bit more breathing room if you're the likes of Ollie Fonseca and Brian Noel, but still have to watch out for James Heater back in 17th place. Maybe he can make a climb as Christopher Wade making his charge on the inside group. We hop on board the 77. The reason why we keep our focus on him is Brian Noel, mile and a halves, have not been the kindest for the 77. He's been caught in a lot of big wrecks. And we look back at those past races, and tonight he's got to keep that nose out of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, kind of log laps right now. We always talk about at the beginning of the race, the same. These are always kind of the feel-out portions of the race, right? And, these drivers have that competition caution that is going to come out at some point if we go green. So, use this if you're Brian Noel just to kind of feel your car out. Just ride along, see what the car is going to do, how it's reacting, and you'll be able to kind of build your notebook, so to say, for the rest. And as I said, there's our first caution.
And it's last week's winner, Douglas Newbigging, and the 7 machine spun around in the middle of 1 and 2. And we talked about the front bumper, rear bumper, the ways that they don't line up properly. Well, when you get squeezed into a bad situation, the 7 found himself going around and bringing out our first caution of the day, and that will count as our competition caution. As we take the replay here, gonna be seeing the 8C James Heater, Douglas Newbigging, Mason Cassidy really getting squeezed up before it just taps the 7, away he goes, and into the outside wall. Doesn't look like it's too bad a damage. That front bumper is slightly crinkled.
Yeah, just it looked like one of those kind of domino effects again, Sam, where it looks like the 7 kind of ran up on James Heater right there, maybe had to get out of the gas, and then just kind of got run over from behind there. But yeah, fortunately, just kind of a single car incident there. It doesn't look like a ton of damage, so kind of no harm, no foul.
And that's going to allow Christopher Norris to get back into the fight again. He started on pit road and was off the pace from our leaders. And now with this caution, drivers get all stacked up. Douglas Newbigging able to get some damage repairs once he pulls into pit road. But who else was going to join him? Well, kind of surprising. Our leader into pit road, Larry Yangling into pit road, as well as a couple of others joining hands. So giving up track position is Larry Yangling's decision here, which, with the way the fuel runs have been looking this season, it's anywhere from 45 to around 48 laps for fuel. Maybe this is a strategy call for later on in this race.
Hey, I mean, why not, Sam? Like we said, Larry England's already locked into the playoffs. He's solely just kind of looking for that win and looking for some momentum. Almost the reverse effect that we saw. We talked a lot about his strategy call at Bristol, where he ended up staying out and the strategy got flipped on him. So kind of the opposite effect now, where he's going in and he doesn't have a whole lot of guys going with him. But I know it was only 7 laps, Sam, but I'd love to keep an eye on Larry Yingling and see how quick he's able to kind of slice through this field, because tires do mean something, even if it's only 7 laps.
Well, I'm kind of looking at some of the drivers and the way that the fall off was looking in those first 5 laps of this race. A lot of drivers put in their fastest time of the race, which that's something we will give you more information on. That's the Rocket Man Award. It's 1 bonus point to whoever can put down the fastest lap of the race. That can become crucial later on if someone is saying, well, I need just 1 more bonus point. Might put on some freshies later in the race, but looked to be a little bit of a drop off, anywhere from 1/10 to 2/10 right before that caution came out. So maybe drivers are feeling it. There's a little bit more tire wear that they're concerned about. But of the drivers that came into pit road, Shane Tarian just came in to top off on fuel, but 4 tires in fuel and damage repair for Douglas Newbigging, 4 tires in fuel for Nick Crawford, Ross Tatum, and Larry Yingling. They'll all be starting in the back of the field. Interesting thoughts on how to start this race off. But it's go time for these drivers up front on what decisions they want to make, as Larry Yangling, Shane Tarian, Douglas Newbigging, they come in once again as the 1-to-go marker comes out to top off on fuel again.
I love it. That's I feel like that's a page out of my book there, Sam, just trying to kind of get off sequence from these leaders. And I would say for the majority part, of course, now I'm going to say this, it's not going to happen, but Charlotte, it can be known to kind of go green flag runs. So, I mean, if you get an early caution, why not come put some tires on, maybe top it off with some fuel, and who knows, Sam, I know it's, a long ways away. We still got 140 laps, but this could turn into a fuel race at that point. So, I mean, I like the call from these guys here.
I do too. Some of the front runner, other drivers to watch out for. We're going to be harping on Ryan Kelly, of the 3 Machine, on the fact that he's already gotten a win. So all he needs to do is just get inside of the top 25 in points. It's going to be a long race to do that, but as long as he's up inside of our top 5, top 3 at the end of the race, he's got a chance for that win to count. But other drivers to watch out for, that of Nolan Hicks, 5th place runner currently, 3rd driver on the inside. If he can get inside the top 25 in points and a win, that 86 also could steal his spot into the playoffs. So this race, the drivers that need to run well are putting themselves in positions for a good run. As the pace car pulls off, let's start lap number 11, our first restart of the night. The speed shirt laps 225 into the restart zone, and we're green here tonight once again for the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. Nelson, Johnson down into turn number 1, already lined up with one another.
Yeah, no problems for Benjamin Nelson. Great start by the 79 car as he rockets his way off turn 2 down the backstretch, and he's got Brian P. Johnson now lined up behind him.
Trying to make their way forward, already into your top 5 in line with one another. Top 4 very close to one another. And we weren't able to broadcast last night's race with that of seeing the drivers in Xfinity cars running at Charlotte. Josh, I know you got to experience that race. But the Xfinity cars, the Gen 4, so different from one another. What do you think these drivers are feeling out there on track currently?
Yeah, we had the chance to talk to Cedric Hunter before the race. He was also out there last night, and he mentioned that the Gen 4 cars that were running tonight, they seemed a little snug on entry and a little loose off to where it was almost opposite with the Xfinity cars, especially at the beginning of a run. It was a little loose on entry, and then it would get really tight in the center of the corner and kind of off the corner. So just a different feel. And I talk a lot about kind of driving off the right rear of the tire. It's kind of like a driver's feel for it. So just a different type of driving style and a different kind of car, which makes it a lot of fun.
And these drivers on track are having some fun. This is the battling currently for 6th place with that Brandon Colley up 4 spots for himself, up 8 spots to 16. Josh Kanata, that purple machine on the outside. The zombie is taking off. And Ryan Noel up 7 positions on the inside groove, trying to make his way forward again, trying to minimize any type of loss in points as James Heater is all the way back in the back half of the field at 18. This is not a run for Heater if he's going to find himself into the playoffs. He might need some help later on here tonight, but Joshua Kanata, he locked himself in by just starting tonight's race, and why not have a good run? As the drivers with fresh rubber, they're working the outside lane. There's the 74, Nick Crawford, part of the grouping that came into pit road under a first caution.
Yeah, Nick Crawford has made his way up to 12th place already, Sam, as he's working on Cedric Hunter now, going around the outside of him. That'll move him up to P11, just outside the top 10. So, these fresh tires are really starting to kind of make their way forward early into this run.
Vegas March, don't be lenient. Ross Statham, though, another driver that came and took tires, and Douglas Newbigging, they are still stalled out back in 20th place, not able to get as much momentum forward. And Crawford, on the other hand, making aggressive moves for himself. James Heater, one of the only drivers currently, when we look at the list, that could point his way in to the playoffs. He's got to make a lot of charge. Another driver that could technically, but it is a huge long shot, is Jonathan Cogswell in 10th position. As we take a look, new scheme for our points leader. That is Shane Tarian, rocking the Navy scheme, for himself, a veteran himself, that of the 9, and right now rocking it back here in 21st position. Again, only took fuel when he came into pit road. So still those low tires, just being patient with this race, thinking about the long run. As Ollie Fonseca working his way on the outside lane. This 24 cannot afford to be this far back. He is tied with Brian Noel in the cutoff driver battle, but luckily he's right around James Heater, who is that driver he's more concerned about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ollie Fonseca, I mean, if he can just kind of keep in mind, where Brian Noel is tonight, and I think that needs to be his goal, is just to beat Brian Noel, because in the event we get a new winner or something like that, or someone punch their way in, he would have the advantage to stay in front there. So got a ways to go. He's running 19th right now, but we're really early into this race, and a lot of things could happen.
Ken Campbell, who came into tonight, would have been 15th in points, but with the loss of Polsketti in the playoffs, bumps him up into 14th, but there's only a 4-point advantage over Ollie Fonseca and Brian Noel, and her drivers run currently. Could be seeing that Ken Campbell drop to 15th in points. So the 15 needs to get himself moving, as 18 going to the opposite foot. He's already lost 10 positions, and now under fire from Tyler Dangler, Christopher Norris, who's in the fight, and Douglas Newbigging, who's gotten the repairs after that first caution, but the side-by-side racing for last place. These drivers have to be careful with one another. Yes, you're running for a lot, but we're still in the early portions. Only just 19, about to be lap 20 starting here of 150.
Yeah, Sam, I'm a little surprised some of these guys who are currently battling for the points didn't take a risk to come in and get tires, because I feel like you don't have a ton to lose, because as we see James Heater kind of dropping back through the field right now, he could have been one of those drivers to take the tires, give up the track position, and then work his way forward. So just going to be interesting to see how all the strategies play out tonight.
Well, one of the drivers that was very gutsy on taking position, Nick Crawford, who had a 19-point buffer coming into tonight's race. He's made pass by the one machine you see on screen of Brandon Colley. Colley having a good run up to position where he started, qualified 10th. Not bad for himself, but for Colley, he's watching through his windshield and his mirror as Larry Yingling took tires, topped off on fuel. He has been marching his way forward, trying to keep up with Nick Crawford, but going a little bit more of a patient route. and trying to conserve these tires for the long run, while the 74 looks to be in its all attack at this current moment.
Yeah, it's kind of a split bag on the guys that pitted Sam. We've got Nick Crawford and Larry Yingling who are really kind of making hay right now and not wasting a lot of time. And then a little further back, you got Ross Tatum and Shane Tyrion who did pit, but they're just kind of taking their time coming up through the field, not pushing things. So two different mindsets there with the fresh tires.
Jonathan Cogswell talked about the improbable chance of the 27 pointing his way into the playoffs. Came in tonight 20th in points, but 24 points off of the cutoff line, meaning he might have to max out the amount of points or finish inside of the top 3, lead a lap, and get 1 bonus point. That could be enough, and also bank on all the drivers in front of him to have some bad nights. That being James Eater, Danny Cochran, who didn't show up, and either Ollie Fonseca or Brian Noel to have a falter for a chance for this 27 to point his way in. 24-point buff, down with only 26 drivers out on track. It's going to be tough for the 27 that runs currently in the middle of the pack. Has fallen now to 18th position.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was about to say, Sam. Is the worst thing he's got going against him is the car count. Only having 26 drivers on track, there's not as many opportunities for the guys in front of him to lose spots. So, kind of a mixed bag for Jonathan. He's got to perform himself and put himself in position to advance, but he's going to also need a little bad luck for some of those guys he's racing. So, yeah.
And the aggression from Nick Crawford continues to be rewarded as he makes the dive to the inside on Zach Hall. Communicating with one another are the teammates from Snowy Desert Racing. That Snowy Desert Racing team is Zach Hall, Nick Crawford, as well as Christopher Norris and Benjamin Nelson, who leads this race. And Nick Crawford and the drivers that took tires, I'm looking at the number on the laps, the last couple of laps that we put down. Still, Nick Crawford with his aggressions running anywhere from 1/10 to 2/10 faster than the field of those that did not take tires, which is so interesting when you look at the fact that it's just a 5-lap difference on when the drivers that stayed out under our first caution to those that pitted. And it looks to be a massive difference on taking this set. They had 5 sets to work with coming into tonight. One's already been burned as this race continues to stay green.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Charlotte, you don't think as much as kind of like the old Atlanta or Homestead. Some of those tracks are really known for really slicing up the tires and the high wear factor. So Charlotte not necessarily known for that intense of tire wear, but I mean, it still definitely chews them up enough to where it's going to make a difference. But yeah, I'm surprised, Sam. I'm surprised it's that much of a differential, just 5 to 7 laps there. But Nick Crawford's definitely made some hay, and he's up to 3rd now, chasing down the front 2.
Up to 3rd, and we were looking at a shot of Ryan Kelly, who is trying to advance his way forward. And looking at the points of where drivers are currently, being inside of the top 25 in points, he had to find his way to get by the 99, who is 25th in points. That driver he's aiming for, as some battling back at 20th place. Who's going to be in the top 20? It's ISRC drivers that are running side by side of Christopher Norris, Ollie Fonseca, trying to figure out who's going to have that 20th spot. And Christopher Norris almost brushing the outside wall. The aggression for that 38 really maximizing the amount of space on this track.
Yeah, that's what's so fun about this track, though, Sam, is you can see the 2 different lines that Christopher Norris kind of running more the middle to upper groove there as he now dives to the bottom. But yeah, you can move around a little bit here and find some speed up against the wall. It's a little sketchy up there, but you just got to go where the car is going to create the most speed for you.
And as these drivers continue to stay green, we're about to hit lap 30 here tonight. Thank you so much to everyone joining with us this evening. Want to give a shout out to the amazing sponsors that help out the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series, starting things off with Roasted Gems and Coffee. If you'd like to go get yourself started off on your day off right, go head over to roastedgemscoffee.com. They've got a quality of great flavors to look at as well. Try. Remember, when at purchase, use the promo code WSSR for 5% off ordering your coffee from Roasted Gems Coffee. And as well, Trophy Smack. If you want to be the envy of your competition, or you just want a trophy for yourself, go look at their wide range of trophies that they have, from championship belts, trophies, rings, and more. Go check out TrophySmack.com, especially with fantasy football and football season back in full swing. Maybe you need a trophy for the biggest loser of the season. Maybe you need it for the winner. And for the drivers of the WSSR series, with the playoffs starting next week, they're all hunting for a custom WSSR trophy made by Trophy Smack. And when you're getting your trophy, remember to use the promo code WSSR Smack for 10% off. Thank you so much to the amazing sponsors, and as well, qualifying results sponsor being Brandon Cully's mom, who helps out the last couple of seasons. Thank you for your donation to help out the WSSR. Josh, this league, certainly they have shown some great passion to being up front, but we're about to see a change for the lead as Benjamin Nelson, Nick Crawford, it's time to duel, as it's just 2/10 the difference between the 74 and the 79.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nick Crawford has caught Benjamin Nelson now. So, and look, not too far behind him is Larry Yingling right there in P3. So those two guys, Larry Yingling was leading this race and came in, decided to take those tires, and it seems they have made their way to the front now. So I don't think it will be long, and those two are going to be battling for the lead, it looks like.
It looks to be a solid pick there on who's going to take it at this point. Do you think 74 is going to take the lead first, or could it be Larry, or could it be Zach? Zach Hall, 32, looks to be at the pace that we were seeing those drivers being aggressive. The tires are starting to match here as we've been 25 laps into this run. So the drivers that have grabbed the new tires, well, the advantage has set them back into practically where they were before this the most recent caution on the net gain and loss. But it's time to see who's saved their tires for this better run, as the last couple of laps, it's been Larry Yingling, the faster of our top three. But Nick Crawford is slowly chipping away, but it's slowed down since he's gotten in the draft of the 79.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the tires have just started to even out a little bit now, Sam. I think Larry looked like that last lap, he was just about a tenth quicker than the front two there. So, but yeah, things are really evening out now. And even if they don't get the lead, Sam, I still think it's a great move, because now they've got the trap position. They had to burn a lot of tire just to get back up there, but still a solid move nonetheless.
Oh, extra, I would agree as well. It's Nick Crawford, biggest mover so far in our top 10, up 7 positions, and currently actually is the biggest mover, as Nolan Hicks 2 seconds off our leaders. And you look at the lap times, he's about a half a tenth to a full tenth slower than Benjamin Nelson, trying to close in the gap, keep in touch on this battle of these three drivers in front of him. And these are three drivers that could be battling for a championship. Zach Hall, Ryan Johnson, Season 1 champion, and Brian Kelly probably looked to be the three machine, was set to be the Rookie of the Year award. He's going to be challenging that with Benjamin Nelson for that award. But this three, I'm excited to see how he's running, as we're on board with Zach Hall currently.
I think that's what's going to be so fun about these playoffs, Sam, is arguably maybe Benjamin Nelson you can say is maybe the favorite, just with the multiple wins coming in. But for the most part, I mean, we've got 5-7 drivers that I truly feel like could emerge as victorious and be crowned a champion here. I mean, it's just, the talent level is unbelievable in this league, and it's really, really good drivers that haven't won yet this year. And so you get into the playoffs, and it's going to be who gets hot at the right time, who's going to win to advance themselves to the next round. And I think there's just a lot of guys capable of going out and having a really good playoff.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about those drivers that haven't gotten into victory lane. I know Cole Sketty, he had to relinquish and back off from racing. And see Zach, all those hands are working off the exit of the corner. But for these drivers, I mean, Zach Hall's one of those drivers. Larry Yingling, Ryan B. Johnson, we've said it so many times these last couple of weeks on the fact that they're part of the most winning drivers in WSSR, but yet to win this season. And then Cole Sacchetti, when he comes back, which we've been notified he should be back in the next few weeks, he's a driver that can get on a streaky run and can find himself in a victory lane. Ken Campbell, another driver as well, that's been having consistent top 10 runs, but can he find some sneaky speed? And what helps the most is the first race of the playoffs next week, Talladega. We can find a first-time winner at a wild card race like Talladega next week.
And that's what's so important, Sam, is why these guys want to be in the playoffs so bad. Even if you're, 15th, 16th place, maybe you haven't had the speed as some of these guys that have won races or run up front every week. If you can just get into the playoffs, you have a shot. Because, like you said, Talladega, one of the biggest wild card races of the entire playoffs, you can find yourself in victory lane and all of a sudden moving on to the next round where maybe you didn't even think you had a shot to get in. So it's just you got to be in it to win it, and it starts here tonight.
And then also the first round. It's only going to be 2 races before we take away 4 drivers from running for a chance for a championship, and that's going to be, actually the first round, we're losing 6 drivers in that first round, and it's going to be Talladega Auto Club. That first round is going to be sneaky difficult because the unknown at Talladega could get caught up in the big one, and then Auto Club as well. Going to be Pack Racing, and who could hold on? Oh no, Ross Tatum couldn't hold on as he broke into the outside wall there for the 21. Hard smack for himself, and a driver hit 3 pit road. Kyle Rochelle, green flag pit stops underway for those that didn't go to pit road under that first yellow.
Yeah, that could have been really big for Ross Tatum there. He did a good job to save it. It looks like he may have had some contact with the outside wall, but we talked about how durable these cars are. But yes, Sam, I don't think we're far away here from starting this first round of pit stops. It looks like Zach Hall's on pit road now.
Zach Hall's into pit road. Over the radio was Christopher Norris, and he was coming into pit road. Looks like half Snowy Desert Racing deciding it's go time here on just lap 43. Kind of shocking. Usually it's lap 45 that we see these drivers try to aim for, but pitting slightly sooner, and it might be thinking about, hey, let's give ourselves a little bit of a gap to work with on that final stint, as this race is looking to become a 2-stop strategy call here this evening. Maybe a 3-stop if things don't line up properly. It's going to be interesting to see how this race develops. If there's going to be more cautions, like I said, the trends have been anywhere from 3 to 4 cautions here in Charlotte. But as the battle for the lead rages back on, Nick Crawford has fallen back. Nelson, will he come into pit road this go around or the next, or will he wait for Larry Yingling to make the pass before he hits pit road?
Well, and one thing I'm looking at, Sam, the guys that pitted on that very first caution, how long do they stay out here? If they're truly playing the fuel game, I think you want to stretch this for as absolutely long as you can go. But at the same time, the longer you stay out, the time you're giving up to the guys that are hitting pit road first. So it's kind of a cat and mouse game right now.
It certainly is. That's another driver on the radio saying they're going to be coming into pit road, going to be that of Tyler Dengler. Brian with an I Johnson has already made his stop, and James Kaufman has just hit pit road. So drivers have made their decisions further back on when to come in pit road. Another top 10 driver over the radio, Nolan Hicks. And coming over the radio and informing drivers that you need to come into pit road, so crucial. You don't want to be that driver that has a guy right behind you. You don't notify him, and then you got an accident, just balloons out of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we've talked about this every week on pit roads that are difficult to get onto. Charlotte, not necessarily a difficult pit road necessarily, but with these cars, Sam, again, just the front brake being dialed into them, really, really easy to lock up that front tire and slide a little bit if you're a little too aggressive. So just something that these drivers are going to be thinking about as they're coming to make their first stop.
Other drivers that have made their stops, as looks to be driver having to pit multiple times. It's a late pit stop, Christopher Norris into pit road. James Heater just leaving his box. Same for Nolan Hicks leaving their box as a grouping of 4 drivers hit pit road. Christopher Wade, Ken Campbell, Brian Noel. I thought there was going to be a 4th one joining them. It looks to be just those 4. Pit road is getting busy. Who can get to lap 50? That's going to be a big question, because if you can get to lap 50, that's going to be such a crucial number to get to try to stretch your fuel out for late in this run.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the guys that pitted on that first caution, I think that's exactly what they're going to do, Sam, is if they can somehow make this a 2-stop race, I mean, that would put them possibly in position to maybe steal one on fuel mileage, which is crazy to think about. That opportunity came on lap 8 tonight, but, it's all about setting yourself up for the end, and, that could be a huge call for some of those guys.
And looking at the drivers that came into pit road, there was a grouping of 4 or 5 of those drivers that pitted, as our leader, Benjamin Nelson, now hits pit road for the 79, was not able to get that lap 50 number. But for Nick Crawford, as well as for Ross Tatum, they went on the odd strategy of not topping off on fuel on the 1 to go marker, unlike Larry Yingling, Shane Terrian, and also Douglas Newbegin that topped off on that 1 to go marker. I'm curious if that one extra lap also could be helping these drivers stretch a little bit further than they would like, as the field is starting to shrink further and further down on who's going to be the driver that's going to be in the position once this pit cycle concludes, as Cedric Hunter into pit road. Same for Joshua Kanata, Isaiah Sutherland, and Ryan Kelly. Brian P. Johnson joined in the mix as well as Jonathan Coxwell. A very, very passive entry, but sometimes you need that gentleness to make sure you're good and not get a penalty as you come into pit road.
And all these drivers, Sam, pitting right on lap 50. So that, to me, tells me that they are going to try to go with the two-stop strategy.
It's going to be difficult because they have the pacing laps to stretch it out. And they also had that extra lap of extended to start the race off. Maybe that influences how this pit cycle is going to go. We'll have to find out as we continue to see how Larry Yingling, Nick Crawford, Ross Tatum, Douglas Newbegin, and Shane Tarian, those 5 drivers came into pit road under our first yellow, and they have been able to stretch the fuel out. The question is, how much further can they go? Because based off the numbers that we just saw, they might be good for another 3 to 4 more laps.
Well, and the thing is, too, Sam, you're talking about the drivers that decided to come in and top off one more time. That could make an absolute massive difference, because if you have to save it all, it could be the difference of those guys don't have to save quite as much, which means they can push it a little harder. They can go a little sooner than maybe some other guys. So, I mean, that one lap could make all the difference.
And with the drivers making their strategies, some going with an undercut, which is going to be hit sooner than the drivers ahead of you. Right now, Zach Hall was the first driver to hit pit road, and he is leading the drivers that have already pitted by a pretty large margin over Nolan Hicks and Benjamin Nelson. Nelson almost 9 seconds off of Zach Hall, who's in 6th place. But from 7th level back, still being 1 lap down, this is where things can really shake up, because if a caution flag comes out, that could change on drivers not be able to get their lap back because Zach Hall already pitted. It could just stay out and mess up a lot of people's strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. So those guys that have pitted and are currently a lap down are just kind of keeping their fingers crossed that everything cycles around right now, Sam, because, yeah, that could absolutely be detrimental to your night if something were to happen.
As we see Mason Cassidy making the pass by Shane Tarian, trying to run down Larry Yingling, who leads this race. That's the 67 machine. Took a gamble, was up front leading this race, then came into pit road under our first yellow, took tires, topped off on fuel, and hoping that that top off is going to give enough of spacing to maybe cut off one of the green flag pit stops if this race continues to stay green, that we can be happy as we're waiting for this full pit cycle to be concluded at this time. And looking at their top 5, they've been out there for 45 laps for those that topped off with the extra lap, 46 for Nick Crawford and Ross Tatum. They can, I mean, we were told maybe 45 to 48 laps. Saw some people go about 50, but that was with pacing laps. I'm imagining they're about to be gassed on fuel and going to be forced to come into pit road very shortly.
Yeah, it won't be much longer, Sam, but the man I'm looking at next is going to be Zach Hall. He was the first one that kind of started this pit stop trend. He's running P6 on track now. He's only 21 seconds behind the leader right now. So as those guys pit, Zach is going to cycle to the lead as long as everything stays clean and green and cycles around. So, I like the approach from Zach because I feel like he is not normally one of the first ones to do the undercut. So a little bit different strategy tonight for Zach, and it could be very beneficial for him.
Yeah, it really could, as these drivers, I mean, just by staying out for those drivers, they lost so much more time on Zach Hall, who was one of the first drivers to come into pit road. Kyle Rochelle was the first driver, but he's being swamped, and he fell back so far. Zach was in our top 5 when this pit cycle started out, but the 99 wasn't, and he's feeling the pressure of drivers that have about 8 lap fresh tires than this 99, and you can see the major difference when drivers going on by is Larry Yingling, Nick Crawford, pit road together. Ross Tatum's going to go out for an extra lap. Douglas Newbegin will stay out for an extra lap. And Ross Tatum, this has got to be comforting for himself because he's about to complete lap 49 on this run.
Yeah, Ross Tatum, he's my teammate in the Stars and Stripes League on Thursdays, and the man is phenomenal at saving fuel. I don't know how he runs as fast as he does and saves fuel. So looks like just being able to squeeze that extra lap out. Let's see if he comes. It looks like he might be coming this time, and he is, Sam. So one extra lap for Ross Tatum.
And Douglas Newbegin going to be coming in behind. A little bit of a wiggle for the 7 machine, and also a little bit hot, but luckily we'll stay under our speed limit. Pit road speed limit is 45 miles per hour. And for all drivers, sequence through, nobody caught with a speeding penalty on their first go around. But we are coming up to 60 laps into this race. Full green flag pit cycle has concluded, and Zach Hall leads the way by over 5.7 seconds over Nolan Hicks. Benjamin Nelson in 3rd, Brian P. Johnson 4th. Maybe the undercut's the way to go based on how this early data's looking, but we still have plenty of racing action to give you. Less than 100 laps to go, about to be 90 here shortly, and we are going to take our first commercial break of the night. Thank you so much for joining with us. You're watching the WSSR Roast and Gems Cup Series. It's the last race of the regular season, the Speed Shirt Labs 225 at Charlotte. It's been a good one so far. Only one caution. How much more action will we see? We'll find out right after this.
They're 5 wide behind the pit. Oh my, the 5 wide here. This ain't gonna work. They make it last. Bumping and banging to the end. They're beating banging for the lead. Sora still with the shot here. Coming off a 4. Look at it. That's it.
It's bottom line, here it comes. I know Carter gets run. It's gonna be that Nick Crawford. The 74 gets through. somehow, and they just completely demolish one another.
Opportunity to dive it down low, drifting up, trying to be the stealer. Here he comes, Cedric Hunter. He does it, he steals it. But he somehow drove it into the corner to wreck it.
Oh, they wrecked! They wrecked each other. The top two bounced into one another. Just too much of side drifting off of, and they got to be careful. Oh no! The 4 demolishes in the 28.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting Wednesday night coverage of the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. It's the final race of the regular season for the drivers in Season 7. It's the speed shirt, laps 225 at Charlotte, and currently Zach Hall still the leader after 20 laps of this run being put down after this green flag pit stop cycle has been fully completed. The undercut has worked fabulously for the 32 machine, but it's the 79 of Benjamin Nelson that has been trying to run him down. Less than 3 seconds now. The question is, how many laps? Could it be 3? Could it be 5 before Zach is ran down? You can see the difference. It is pretty big margins that Benjamin Nelson is cutting away, but it is incredible to see this difference on how the drivers have adapted on the different strategies, still expecting the fight. Who's going to win with the 2-stop strategy, green flag pit stops, or will it be the 3-stop strategy that gets you into victory lane? As tonight's broadcast is covered here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, my name is Sam Dyer. Up with me in the booth is Joshua Altus, and as well Robert Moyer Jr. running productions in the background. I mean, Josh, we look at the difference on pace. Ben's catching up to Zach, but it is starting to shrink on the amount of time that's been caught currently. We might be seeing these times equal up here right when the 79 catches up.
Yeah, I honestly don't even know where to look right now, Sam, because you got Benjamin Nelson who's eating into the lead of Zach Hall, which great call by Zach Hall, by the way. I love the call to come and do the undercut and commit to it, and it's gained him the lead, and I mean he headed almost 30 laps ago, so he's been able to hold the track position. Even if he does lose the lead, it's still going to be a net gain. But then if we look a little further down the leaderboard, Sam, Larry Yingling, who was the first driver on the seemingly two-stop strategy, has worked his way up to 8th place already. He's running almost a second a lap faster, and he's only 9 seconds back.
Yeah, this was something we were kind of trying to talk on. We don't know which strategy is actually the better one. There were positives and negatives on both ends, but this is wildly different from, I think, what we were expecting. The gain by Larry Yingling is so great that he might be able to gain all that track time back that he was giving up for staying out those extra 10 to 15 laps comparatively to the rest of the field that's going for a 3-stop. Compare the 2-stop strategy that he has, and going so fast that he's also saving fuel at the rate that he's trying to save fuel, but it's just the tires are allowing him to go so much faster.
Yeah, I mean, right as we were going to break, Sam, I felt like it was almost a no-brainer on the guys that pitted on that very first caution. I said, this is going to fall right in their hands, and you said, well, I don't know if that's exactly true, and I truly don't know, because Larry Yingling is hauling the mail right now, and he's slicing through these guys. So I really don't know which strategy is going to be the best, and I don't think we're going to know either until it's over.
No, I don't think we are at all. It's going to be a difficult one until we kind of see where drivers solidify and place themselves under the 2-stop strategy. And for those drivers that are aiming for the 2-stop, they're most likely going to be hitting pit road once again around that 100 to 110 laps window. That's going to be kind of in between that spots where they're aiming for. The drivers that are going for the 2-stop, they may be thinking about pit stops already here in the next 8 to 10 laps, or maybe even a little bit later than that, but it's going to be very close on when they're going to be hitting pit road, and then they're going to have a mad dash on quickly trying to recover and rebound, just trying to minimize the amount of time they're going to be losing to the likes of Larry Yingling, Ross Tatum, and others that went for the 2-stop strategy. As the drivers are marching around this track, we are about to hit the halfway marker as Zach Hall crosses the line. Race control informs us halfway through this race. Want to give another shout out to another important member of the WSSR community, that being Steve Benjamin, who runs race control for this season. It has been a pleasure to have race control. That is something that the WSSR always was hoping to have, and they found a great one with Steve Benjamin informing us as broadcasters, and as well helping out the drivers to clear black flags whenever there's a caution, to help out in that fashion of making sure that any bickering gets squashed before it blows up and gets out of hand. So thank you to Steve Benjamin running race control this evening, and to all you, the fans, for watching with us on your Wednesday night. It's been a good one so far. Zach Hull, Benjamin Nelson, Brian P. Johnson going to be your top 3, but for how long? Because the 79 is within a half a second now of Zach Hull.
Yeah, the 79 has closed that gap now, Sam. He is right about half a second, 7/10 of a second. And if I'm Zach Hall, you know, you're going to start be thinking about when this next stop's going to happen. And I think it's really played out perfectly for him so far, Sam. He was able to get that net gain, and he's led a ton of laps here. And, you know, from my experience at least, the later into the race Charlotte gets, the undercut becomes that much more important, because I feel like the tires are able to stabilize a little bit quicker. So I think the undercut may be the play. We'll see when Zach Call decides to pit again, and as I said, here it comes.
That was something I was actually going to bring up, was does he wait until Benjamin passes him or after he gets passed? Because Benjamin Nelson, Larry Yangling, they were closing so quickly on just, you know, a 6 to a 15 lap difference on one another. With Zach pitting now, he's going to have over a 30-second advantage. He's going to try to run down and just closing this gap even more in the next handful of laps. I love this call from Zach Hall, not waiting until maybe it's too late to make this decision. Making the call. Okay, I've been caught by Ben. It's time to pit.
Yeah, I love the call from Zach Hall here. He's being really aggressive and really decisive on his strategy tonight, and yeah, I think that's going to put him in position to have a shot at this thing.
And the attacking and the aggression lingers as we look at other drivers that are in precarious spots. As Brian Noel running better than Ollie Fonseca here this evening, solidifying the 77 in a position where he should be the 15th place in points driver after this night is done, if they finished where they're at now, which would put the 77 in a playoffs position. Ollie Fonseca, though, still in a questionable spot. That 24, if a driver that's inside of our top 25 in points at the end of the night wins, Ollie could be that bubble driver that gets knocked out. The 24 needs to find speed, as he's running in 20th position currently.
Well, and another one to keep in mind as well, Sam, don't forget about the 3-car of Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly has to jump up into the top 25 in points tonight for his win to count, and he's doing everything he needs to right now. He's been running solidly inside the top 5 all night, so I mean, Ryan Kelly could jump into the playoffs and it would knock that bubble down even lower. So man, it's just so many different things happening right now, and who knows what's going to happen before it's all said and done.
And Josh, if you were looking at it, of drivers that didn't show up here tonight, that could be assisting the 3 a little bit here on that points climb that maybe looked a little bit more ominous before he came into tonight's race, but looks maybe a lot more doable with the drivers that missed out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Chris Stitz being one of them, Brad Delph, I don't see in here. So those guys not showing up tonight is definitely aiding Ryan Kelly's efforts.
And also with James Kaufman not having the best run here tonight, it's helping out the 3 on making this march. As Ken Campbell, one of the drivers that also was inside of our bubble of 4 drivers that were not 100% solidified into fighting for a championship, currently running well, top 10 run. This is exactly what Ken Campbell needs to be placing himself into the playoffs. A solid, just keep your nose out of trouble evening. I'm loving this by the Campbell machine. Just stay up front, run well, and he can find himself with a chance to fight for a championship next week. The first round of the playoffs is going to be a tough one. Talladega Auto Club, 2 big tracks. Who knows what the madness could be, as the green flag pit stops look to be a lot more of let's take him now, as Ken Campbell hits pit road. Round 2 of the playoffs is going to be Kansas and Richmond. That's when we're expecting Cole Sketty to be back. We're hoping for him to be back out on track. And then the final round of the playoffs, interesting. I don't know if you looked at how the playoff system looks, Josh, but it's going to be 2 races for all rounds, from the round of 16, the round of 10, and the championship round, where 6 drivers. Who is going to be the most consistent at Homestead and Chicagoland to take the trophy for themselves?
I actually love that, Sam, because I feel like that's very different than, you know, most leads kind of follow the normal NASCAR format now with the 1 race finale. But I like having the 2 race. It's different, you know, and I think it, you know, if something crazy happens, you know, I know, you know, just odd oddball off the wall things can happen sometimes in just single races. So I think it forces you to really be consistent and to perform in both races. And if you have a mistake in one of those races, you could possibly still have a shot at it. So fun format. I like it.
It's going to be interesting to watch how this format is going to enable or maybe hurt drivers on going for a championship. As we're 86 laps into tonight's race, another shout out to our amazing sponsors here tonight, being Roasted Gems Coffee. Roasted Gems Coffee, they've got a wide range of flavors if you'd like to check them out, and it's a great way to start your day off with some premium quality coffee. You don't want to miss out on their wide range of flavors, as well as great merch line that they have, from mugs to t-shirts and jackets. Roasted Gems Coffee has got you covered. And when purchasing, remember to use the promo code WSSR for 5% off. And thank you for being the title sponsor of the series. As we take a look at Brian P. Johnson running in second place, he's rolling with the Trophy Smack machine. Trophy Smack, where you want to go to show off your glory, as this machine, as he's gotten himself a wall smack from Trophy Smack, which is a metal plate that you are able to place either with a stand if you like, or you can grab their magnet safe mounting system that allows you to place your wall smack, which is a high gloss piece of artwork, a high gloss metal piece of artwork that you customly pick what picture you want on it, and you are able to place wherever you would like, as Nelson gets a little bit out of control there. But I know a lot of the drivers that have won here in the WSSR, they've gotten their wall smack of the victory burnout with their vehicle. And why not? Go get your victory placed with your wall smack. Remember, use the promo code WSSR SMACK for your 10% off with all purchases at Wall Smack. And also, huge thanks to our qualifying sponsor, Brandon Colley's mom, who's also always in the chat. We always love to see the interactions. Thank you to everyone that's been interacting with us here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. If that's sharing the broadcast, liking our videos, subscribing and being notified when we go live, all the different ways to support us as the broadcast team, and a way to support the leagues themselves, get more eyes, and it helps with sponsorships for the league so they can grow and reward the drivers for giving us this great racing action. As Josh, more drivers hitting pit road, it's Nolan Hicks who's giving up a top 10 run for the 86 machine.
Yep, Nolan hitting pit road here, and I'm a little intrigued, Sam, that Benjamin Nelson and Brian Johnson, they are kind of part of that early pit stop strategy. And Zach Hall was the first one kind of out of that group to hit pit road, but they have decided to stay out way longer than Zach Hall here. So it's almost a third strategy almost being created by these guys right now. So it's going to be fun to kind of keep up with what everyone's doing. And I don't know if they're trying to maybe stay out a little bit longer to get closer to Larry Yingling's strategy, but Zach Hall is going to have a major difference on tires compared to these guys. So as Brian P. Johnson's going to be looking for the lead.
To the inside, not wanting to give it up with the one lap advantage. It took him all this stint to get side by side. Benjamin Nelson, Brian P. Johnson, one maybe thinking about saving fuel. We'll throw that out the window. Let's fight for the lead position before we head into pit road. Other drivers heading pit road going to be Christopher Wade as well as Tyler Dangler. This 28's not giving up, finding that speed in the center of the corner, hoping for the exit as Nelson keeps the pinch, continue to drag race their way across the line. Lap led by Nelson. Brian Johnson not giving up in this 28 Trophy Smack machine. It continues to run that inside groove.
Yeah, Brian P. Johnson, how bad he wants to get to victory lane, Sam. I mean, he's running the Trophy Smack scheme, major title sponsor for this series, which, by the way, Sam, I'm in 4 different fantasy football leagues, and I think I got to get one of those Trophy Smacks. I mean, it is so cool.
I know Robert Moyer has one. If you go check out our Slow Down, Lowdown recap show, Robert Moyer Jr., a producer, you also get to see a shot of what his Trophy Smack his wall smack looks like. It is really, it's great art of work that they put into Trophy Smack. I know the WSSR has been a lot of conversations of trying to find ways to get a lot more involved, and I believe that WSSR was the group that actually introduced Trophy Smack to the fact of how big iRacing is, and a new kind of atmosphere and grouping to maybe push their trophies towards, because I know all leagues are trying to find the best trophies to give out to their drivers, and Trophy Smack certainly is the best place to go for it.
Well, we know NASCAR fans are the most brand loyal, customers, so to say, and I think it carries over to iRacing too, because I had never heard of Trophy Smack before this league, and I feel like I see it everywhere now. I mean, it's on fantasy football ads and all kinds of stuff. So Brian P. Johnson doing a really good job. He's got the Trophy Smack machine in the win. It looks like Benjamin Nelson's going to peel off and hit pit road.
Just wanted to wait, fight, slow down that 28 machine, and finally, once he found the opportunity, pit road was the call, as Brian P. Johnson expecting him to hit pit road here shortly. Other drivers following suit, going to be Brandon Colley into pit road, and a couple of others also thinking about their stop. When do you want to make that pit stop? And as well, looking at the numbers, drivers running down one another. Zach Hall, compared to Larry Yingling, it's just 11-second difference, but Zach is still closing in quite quickly on the 67, and Zach needs to be as close as possible to Larry and also have the tire advantage late in this race if he wants to fight for the win here tonight. As those two drivers, I think they're going to be the top two to watch out for when this race is done, as Brian P. Johnson hits pit road.
Yep, Brian P. Johnson hits pit road in lap 97, Sam, so I don't know if those guys can make it on that two-stop now. They might have to save a little extra fuel. I don't know. It could put them in a different boat here. So
It just looks impossible.
Yeah, I'm really liking Zach Hall right now. I think Zach's got the strategy down. He's got the pace. Yeah, that's my pick, Sam. I don't know if we do pits on this, but I think Zach Hall's strategy is going to be the one to beat right now.
I mean, we used to do picks a lot, but I felt like bad juju, bad luck to the drivers that we used to pick, and it just was not good. It was a very, felt that, it's almost with driver interviews, it's hard for us to do it because whenever we interview or pick drivers, they get that commentator's curse. So let's see if Josh has the touch of gracing Zach with victory lane, or will we find himself in trouble as he's on the back bumper of last week's winner, Douglas Newbiggin, caught up in our one and only wreck of the night. And now it's the heavy pressure. He's got some speedy machines around him. Zach Hall trying to work that outside lane. The one of Brandon Colley who came into pit road just a lap ago. That one is cruising. But at this current moment, a lap down needs to get by both these drivers as quickly as possible.
And this is where you got to be careful, Sam, when all the different strategies are playing out right now. Sometimes you might not know who's on tires, who's not, and you could run up on a slower car a little bit quicker than you anticipate. So this is kind of the stage of the race where there's so many different strategies going on right now. You just got to be really careful out on track.
Zach can find more speed. He's mostly in the field as looking at the differences in time. Adam Nolan Hicks, Brian P. Johnson going to be over 19 seconds off of Zach Hall. Still a lot of work for Zach Hall to try to hold off the rest of the group. But again, most of the field is still have one more pit stop to go towards. And if you pit now, you should be in that window to make it from here. And that's, I got to give huge kudos to Joshua Kanata, Cedric Hunter. They've been out there for over 50 laps and have still stretched it out pretty well. Ryan Kelly, another one of those drivers, but Kelly pits now, while the likes of Joshua Kanata, they'll stretch out for an extra lap, but I think the 16 might be able to make it, which that's going to be a big gain for himself.
Oh, absolutely. If the 16 can make it, that's another driver who is currently locked into the playoffs, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, and he also won on Monday night in the Truck Series that we broadcast. So
yeah, the ISRC Truck Series with that of Joshua Kanata, who's now going to pull into pit road. That win on Monday night, Talladega locked him into the round of 12 for their playoffs. As those drivers had their first playoff race on Monday, they'll have their exit of who moves on to the round of 12 next week. Can't wait for that race as Cedric Hunter stays out for another lap, and this has got to be some good feelings for the likes of those that pitted right on the end of this race, as the 13 trying his best to stretch out the fuel, but really it's more of just helping himself and what the damage, it looks like he's accrued, and oh no, Cedric, pit road spin slide. This is a note that he hates to have, but it's a known thing that Cedric has on coming into pit road. Pit entry is probably one of the most difficult spots for this 13 in his iRacing career.
Well, he did a great job, Sam, of locking it down, and he didn't hit anything, and he didn't bring out a caution. So obviously he's going to give up a little bit of time right there, but it could have been a lot worse for sure.
It really could have. As Nick Crawford now going to be pulling into pit road, was running in second when before he hit pit road for himself. Going to get that service done as Larry Yingling still leads this race. The gap between the 67 and the 32 has started to slow down as Larry now hits pit road for the final time here tonight. For Zach Hall, the question now looms, how much later can you wait? Do you stay out for another 3 or 4 laps and make sure you've got the advantage and then try to run down the 67? Or at this point, you just wave the white flag and stay out as long as possible and bank on a yellow flag?
Yeah, I truly don't know, Sam. I feel like if I say one thing, the opposite's going to happen. So I'm just going to sit back and watch and see what happens.
We'll still need to make one more pit stop. Is going to be Douglas Newbigging as well as Shane Terrian, our points leader. And those are going to be the final 2 that are for sure need to pit here in the next handful of laps. Then it's Zach Hall, who's in a questionable position. Nolan Hicks as well on where they're going to be pit stops. There's plenty of others that are going to have to pit here in the next 10 to 15 laps to make their final stop. Those that are aiming for the 3-stop strategy. But Zach Hall now being swamped by all of his competition that were aiming for the 2-stop as let's go 3 wide with lap traffic as Christopher Wade backs off. Ryan Kelly going to be on the inside lane. The 3 able to make the pass work. Wade's trying to fit the nose on where the opening is. Finds it and tackles for the lead. Up to getting in front of our leader, unlapping himself. It's a big pass for that 53 machine.
Well, and that's just it, Sam. Those guys that have already pitted, when you see the leader on track, you're like, I gotta get in front of him, like instantly, because if a caution comes out, that's a big difference if you're a lap down or if you're on the tail end. Obviously, it saves your race. So that's why those guys are pushing so hard to get by the leader there, and they want to take advantage of their tires.
Take advantage, make the final push. And for us up in booth, we will step aside and take our final commercial break of the evening as Douglas Newbigging and others that were in the 2-stop strategy have finished up on their pit stops. It's now the final push. Who's going to win the Speed Shirt Laps 225 here tonight? We will find out just in a few moments. You're watching the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. We'll be back after a quick few words from our commercial.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
outside. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at it.
They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Frisch on the bottom.
Richard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As that's still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging.
Oh my
and to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
Well, let the strategies line where they have been placed, because it is go time. The drivers that are aiming for the 3-stop strategy are finally starting to roll in. Zach Hall, who had the lead, instead of jumping the gun to come into pit road, decides to stay out extra over 9 laps over Larry Yingling, but does he have enough time to run down that 67 that looks to be in a prime position? Our top 3 drivers are still needing to make a pit stop based off our calculations on fuel you could save. Sir, should be close on how these drivers line up, but thank you for joining with us on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. Up in the booth with me here this evening is Joshua Altis and Robert Moyer Jr. running productions in the background. As you're watching the WSSR Roast of Gems Cup Series, the last race of the regular season, the Speed Shirt Laps 225 at Charlotte. Currently, it's Brian P. Johnson leading the way, Benjamin Nelson second, Nolan Hicks third. But how much further will they decide to stay out as Johnson in a tricky spot on fuel? He looks to be about 4 laps shy on making it to the end of this race. And Josh, that's been kind of the talking point for a lot of these drivers, is who's got the fuel, who doesn't, because it's a giant question mark on almost all of them, except for the 67, who looks to be completely comfortable, and the 74, Nick Crawford.
Yeah, Brian P. Johnson as well as Benjamin Nelson were kind of on that Zach Hall strategy that we alluded to earlier, but they decided to stay out way longer than Zach Hall on that second run. So I'm not quite sure what the thought is behind that, unless they're just thinking hopefully they can get a caution maybe in these late stages. But yeah, 4 laps is going to be a lot to save around here, Sam.
As these drivers continue to race around, Nolan Hicks, Christopher Norris are leaving pit road as they just got serviced out. Same for Kyle Rochelle, who's just entered the backstretch. As Brian P. Johnson has in his windows, it's going to be Shane Terrian looking to be our regular season champion for the 9. What a season he's had for Shane Terrian, another one of the incredible rookies. This rookie class this season was impeccable. When you look at the top of the leaderboards coming into tonight, it's just a list of rookies that are scattered in between some of our top favorites before this season started.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, Sam, my opinion, I think Shane Terrian won that regular season championship last week. I mean, it can't be understated. The man went 5 laps down, and I know we had a little bit of a caution fest, so it definitely aided his efforts in his comeback. But to be 5 laps down, seemingly out of it, and blew the race for the regular season championship wide open, and then recovers and ends up finishing it ahead of Larry England. So unbelievable drive by Shane Terrian last week, and he's doing what he's got to do, and it looks like he's going to be the regular season champion unless something just goes crazy here in the last 30 laps.
Yeah, I believe with the amount of drivers that showed up and the amount of bonus points that can be grabbed, it is, if Larry finishes first and wins and Shane finishes last, there's a chance for it to be a tie, but that's very unlikely to happen, as Tyler Dangler has been in pit road for extended time. The 19's race has not been going the way that he wanted, and will be spending some time getting damage repaired. A driver that's in a weird spot coming into tonight's race. Ryan Kelly, we talked about it a lot last week when he was looking to be poised to have a fantastic finish at Dover that would have helped out his campaign to finish inside of the top 25 points and make his win that he grabbed earlier in this season eligible to lock him into the playoffs. With 30 laps to go, we're still waiting on the math and calculations. It's really not going to happen until maybe those final 10 laps, maybe in the last 5, to figure out if the 3 is good on points to battle for a championship. But it's going to be close for this 3 if his win's going to count or not, with the drivers that didn't show up here tonight and the drivers that did and the performances that they've been having.
Yeah, and nothing against Ryan Kelly, Sam, but if I'm one of those drivers that's going to be in the playoffs, I really don't want to see this number 3 in the playoffs because he's a threat. He really is. He's anytime we're on a mile and a half or even some other tracks, he seems to be one of those front runners up in the top 5 and competing for wins. So, if the 3 car is not in the playoffs, that is one less really competitive guy that I'm going to have to beat going down to the stretch. So. Yeah, if the 3 manages to make his way in, it's just another challenge.
And Ryan Kelly is one of those drivers who's in a very interesting spot where I believe he should. I'm trying to do the calculations on fuel. I think he's going to be right on the cusp of trying to make it, and he might be aiming for a top 5 finish at the end of the day with where other drivers are running currently. And a little bit of a report on where Larry Yingling runs to Zach Hall. The gap is around 16-second difference between the 2 drivers, from 3rd place runner of Larry Yingling back to 8th place of Zach Hall. And I think that gap might be big enough for Larry Yingling. He just needs to make sure he stays ahead of Nick Crawford, which Crawford pitting a lap sooner than Larry has put 74 in a bad spot on just track position-wise to try to keep in touch. Larry looking like the 3-time champ might finally get that first win of the season right before the playoffs are done, as Dallas Newbigin, the only driver that brought out our caution here today, currently in 6th, but he looks to be right around that window. He might be good on fuel as well.
Yeah, it's wild how the strategies played out tonight, Sam, and it really all stemmed from that very first caution that came out, and guys that elected to stay out but rode around under the pace laps and were able to save some, and then the guys that pitted and went ahead and packed it full of fuel. So 120 laps later, here we are coming down the stretch with less than 25 to go, and it looks like it's playing out to be a strategy race.
Strategy race of who can find themselves in the victory lane. Talked about bonus points that can be grabbed. Leading the lap, you get 1 bonus point. Leading the most laps, 1 bonus point. If you win the race, it's also 1 bonus point. But the Rocket Man bonus point currently in the hands of the 9 machine of Shane Tarian with a 30.092 second lap time. And he's currently running further back. He's running in 9th place for the 9 machine, and it should be good on fuel to make it to the end of this race. But that Rocket Man Award Day, for the drivers that are going to have to force to come to pit road, maybe they can make that late dash to try to steal that award away and get 1 extra bonus point.
Yeah, that's a kind of a unique. It's almost like a F1 style there, Sam. I'm not big into F1. I've got some friends who love F1, and I've been kind of getting into it a little bit recently. But I know that's kind of a rollover there. The fastest lap award gets the bonus point. So I like the incorporating kind of the blend and different point systems.
Yeah, it helps out a little bit more lenient over here in the WSSR F1, and we get inside the top 10 for that bonus point to count. WSSR, you can be running last and still get that Rocket Man award, but most of this season it's been the driver that wins who gets that point. Here tonight might be a little bit of a different story, as Nick Crawford, a second off of Larry Yingling, and we keep our eyes on the 74 because he has kept the gap to 1 second to Larry Yingling, and if Yingling starts to fade, Crawford is in a position where he's got the fuel to make it to the end of this race. Is Larry maybe playing a little bit of gamemanship for the 74 as they continue to bob and weave within a second or below a second?
I don't know if it's necessarily gamemanship, but it might be just truly trying to save enough to make it to the end, Sam. I think these guys are still going to be pretty close on if they can make it to the end or not. So it's just, it's going to be one of those things where I think we start seeing some guys start dropping off, and how long are they going to choose to stay out if they know they can't make it, or are they just going to hope and see if maybe they saved enough and pull out a fuel strategy?
Looking at the numbers now as we've marched closer and closer, 21 laps to go. The numbers are now for Brian P. Johnson, and Benjamin Nelson. If they're going to have enough fuel to make it to the end, they've got to stretch the fuel out further than any driver has done so far tonight. Looking for Nelson, over 55 to 56 laps looks to be the distance that the 79 is going to have to push his fuel, in 54 to 55 laps is for Brian P. Johnson. The furthest we've seen here tonight was 53 laps. Could they find the extra 2 laps on top of the extra fuel that they've already been saving?
They could, Sam, but I don't know. It just really kind of depends the pace they've been running, and if they have that data themselves that they can see how much fuel they're using per lap and what pace they need to run to get, to the desired destination, essentially. So I really don't know. I mean, they could make it, they could stretch it, but I mean, 55 laps is a lot to go around here. So that's some pretty heavy fuel saving. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it looks to be pretty tough as you're seeing Brian P. Johnson also swamped by drivers that are going to be trying to unlap themselves. Christopher Wade, the 53, from 2 laps down, now down to 1 lap down as Cedric Hunter in the 13 trying to set up to become just back onto the lead lap, right in 11th place is the Hello Kitty Pink Machine. It's been great to see the Hello Kitty Machine running out there on track, but dealing with the front right side damage. Looks to be hindering the 13 a lot more on the exit. I mean, on the entry of the corner than the exit. Really trying to get that better exit point of carrying his speed. But tonight's race, the laps continue to dwindle away as now we are 17 laps to go here tonight for Brian P. Johnson, Benjamin Nelson. Can they save the fuel, or is it in the hands of Larry Yingling for the Speed Shirt Laps 225 here at Charlotte? As it's coming down to the numbers. We talked about it under commercial break. This seems to be just more of a chess match of whose strategy was better. Was it the 2 stops or was it the 3 stops under green?
It is. It's a polar opposite race of last week, Sam, where we were, it was survival mode and don't get caught up in wrecks and all kinds of shenanigans happening last week at Dover. But this has been a very clean race. I mean, Charlotte's known for going green. We had that 1 caution early with Douglas Newbigging, and it's kind of come down to tires versus fuel and when do you pit and how long can you stay out. And I love these kind of races personally. I know it may not be the most exciting action, but I love just the varying strategies and who's got the biggest brain to make it work.
Scott, it's as we're coming across the line for Brian B. Johnson, getting ourselves set up for these laps continue to tick away. 15 laps to go here tonight. And looking at the gap between Larry Yingling and Zach Hall, that looks to be around 7.5 seconds is the gap between those drivers. And Zach's pace is starting to slow down comparatively to the likes of Larry Yingling. So it's looking like that battle might be already done and dusted. It's down to where you placed yourself. And for the drivers that are on the cusp of making it or not making it, if they run out of fuel, it's going to give this lead most likely to that 67. Or could it go to Nick Crawford? But Crawford's been losing time to Larry Yingling, so I've got a feeling it's in Larry's hands at this moment. Just trusting that this race stays green. Those drivers in front of him runs out of fuel.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the lap times, and it looks like Larry has slowed his pace down quite a bit and part of that could obviously just be the fall off from the tires, but I think he's doing his best to save maybe just a little extra fuel just to make sure he can get to the finish line. But I mean, Sam, we only got 12 laps to go, so I mean it's going to be sooner or later that we're going to find out who's got the fuel and who doesn't.
It continues to dwindle away. One driver also deeper in the field that I'm slightly concerned about. That's going to be Brian Noel. And Noel, if he falls down too far, could be in that troublesome spot of if Ryan Kelly. That's going to be the fun thing, because if Ryan Kelly in the 3, I believe he's good on fuel. If our top 2 can't make it, we'll push the 3 up 2 spots, placing him inside of our top 5. That's some great points to be grabbed. That will place him closer to that top 25 in points window that we've been talking about. We don't have the exact numbers because there's so much fluidity that's going to change here in the next 10 laps or so. That a lot of stuff now can come down to, can Brian Noel make it on fuel? Because if the 77 can't, that could be placing the 77 in that bubble spot where Ryan Kelly would bump out Noel or Ollie. Looks to be battle between those two on who's in or out if Ryan Kelly gets in our top 25 of points.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Sam. And Brian Noel has seemingly been in front of Ollie Fonseca pretty much all night. But if Ryan Kelly does jump into that top 25, you're exactly right. One of those guys is not going to make the playoffs, and as of right now, I believe it might be Ollie Fonseca who's going to get the short end of the stick.
as these drivers continue to stay out on track, putting these laps down. Close to 10 laps to go, and crossing the line now, it is 10 laps to go for Brian P. Johnson. He's got to go 54 laps on fuel. For that of Nelson, 55 laps on fuel. The lap times are equal between the 28 and the 79. Back to Larry Yingling, who is most likely good on fuel. Zach Hall, he's put the afterburners on. He has been closing in, but it looks like he might run out of time before he can make the pass on Larry Yingling. Might be able to aim for the pass on Nick Crawford. And these final 5 laps are going to be fun, Josh, because that's when we're into the unknown, the question marks of where the fuel is going to line up for some of these drivers.
Yeah, it's been a 140 lap crescendo to this point, Sam, and we're getting to the point now where we're going to find out who's got the fuel and who doesn't. And that's what it's going to be fun when you start seeing guys drop off, or maybe they don't drop off, and maybe, you know, Brian P. Johnson finds a way to make it work, and how cool would that be for him? And as I say that, Benjamin Nelson's going to hit pit road.
Pit road for the 79. He's not going to be able to make it. Now moving Larry up into second place. Nick Crawford in the third, and everyone else. This is throwing it out the window. Who can make it? Who can? It's go time. 8 laps to go. And it always seems like it comes to Charlotte, it doesn't matter if it's real life for the full 600 miles at Charlotte, or if it's just 150 miles, 50 laps, it's down to who can have the fuel at the end of the day. And our top 2 didn't, gifting the lead to Larry Yingling, the 3-time champ, is set for victory now.
Larry Yingling, he's the next man up, Sam. Is he going to have enough fuel now with only 7 laps to go? And to your point earlier, Ryan Kelly, that's 2 additional spots for him in his pursuit to make the top 25 in points.
And the question now leans over to Brian Noel. Will Noel have the fuel? Because he's the next driver in line to have to save the most fuel of all drivers. And he's going to be right on the cusp with about 2 to 3 laps to go. If the 77 runs out of fuel, that will be heartbreaking for himself.
And Sam, Larry Yingling is in massive fuel saving mode right now. He just ran a 32.6. That's a half a second slower than Zach Hall right there. So I know he's got some traffic he's trying to fight through as well, but I think he's just trying to save all he can right now.
Trying to save. Now the gap is down to less than 5.5 seconds, down to 5 seconds between first and third place. Nick Crawford has gone into extreme saving mode. It is all down to the fuel. Who's got it? 5 laps to go. And for Larry Yingling and Nick Crawford, with 5 laps to go, again, we were told fuel-wise was around anywhere from 45 laps if you were just pushing aggressively the whole entire run, or to 50 if you were in save mode from the start. Was Larry and Nick saving fuel? Because we know Zach Hall isn't. It's go time for the 32 machine.
Well, and let's think all the way back to that very first caution, Sam. Look who our top 2 is, and look who pitted during that very first caution. So Larry Yingling, Nick Crawford, heads up move right at the start of the race, and it could set them up for success here.
I mean, this is incredible. You've got the drivers that went for the 2-stop, like Larry Yingling and Nick Crawford under this green flag run. Zach Hall went for the 3-stop, and he's only 5 seconds back from their leaders. He really did shave down all that time that was lost by making that extra pit stall as that of Ben Nelson flying through. But with this slice and dicing with 4 laps to go, it's still not over. If a caution flag comes out with 3 laps to go, or in the next lap for the white flag, we will head into overtime. And Larry Yingling is crossing his fingers, hoping that he's not the reason for the yellow flag.
Yep, I agree, Sam. He's just kind of hanging on and trying to keep one eye out the windshield, one in the mirror, just kind of managing the gaps with these guys on newer tires. And man, what a great call by Larry Yingling and Nick Crawford to come in early, get that fuel, and set themselves up and give themselves a chance. Because let's not forget, Larry Yingling was leading the race when he decided to come in and made that call.
Yeah, I mean, it was a gutsy one. 2 laps to go. And Brian Noel runs high. He's into the wall. Noel brushing the wall in front of our leader as he's being passed by Ken Campbell. Campbell's not feeling safe, and nor can Yingling or Colley really at this moment as they stay side by side in front of our leader. 2 laps to go. Soon to be our white flag for Larry Yingling. He just backs out of it, says this is not my battle to have. I want to keep myself out of trouble, get into victory lane. Smart move as our Roasted Gems coffee. White flag is in the air. Remember to use the promo code WSSR at purchase. And Larry Yingling aiming for his first win of Season 7.
And the 3-time champ, he's been close, he's been patient. He was right behind Ryan Kelly when Ryan Kelly got his win this year, but it looks like the fuel strategy is going to be the call tonight, Sam.
He's looking to make the fuel strategy call. He pitted early under that first yellow. Thought that was the call to get me in the best situation for late in the race, and it works out. The speed shirt laps 2:25, the last race of the regular season, goes to the 3-time champ, Larry Yingling, as the momentum set up for the playoffs.
Awesome job by Larry Yingling and Nick Crawford. A strong second place finish. Zach Hall battling back to finish third with the multiple stop. And Ryan Kelly, Sam, finishes P4 tonight.
And looking at positioning, Brian Noel, Nelson, Brian Noel has the fuel to make it to the end. He'll finish in 14th. Nelson fell all the way down to 16th position, and maybe even more. He ran out of fuel at the end and dropped like a rock down the leaderboard. This is going to be interesting on points. Who's in, who's not, once these numbers get calculated. But the one thing that we do know for sure is your winner tonight is Larry Yingling. Congratulations to the Muffin Sports Cards machine. The 67's been waiting all season long, and finally, the beast has been awoken. The 3-time champ has found himself in a victory lane. Watch out as he's aiming for championship number 4. But for us up at the booth, we're going to step away quickly here. When we come back, we will talk to our top 3, Larry Yingling, Nick Crawford, Zach Hall, and a spotlight driver right after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the post-race show on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. You got to watch the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series regular season finale at the Speed Shirt Labs 225 at Richmond. The Gen 4 cars put on a show. It came down to the strategy call. Did you go for a two-stop strategy or the three-stop? And it was the two-stop strategies of those that topped off under our yellow first caution flag and the only caution of the day on lap number 10 that allowed the 67 machine of Larry Yingling into victory lane. We head to victory lane to talk to that 67 machine. Larry, it's Sam and Josh up in the booth. Congratulations on this win, your first of the season, and what a time to get it right before the playoffs. How are you feeling after this one?
Well, it feels great. Perfect time to get a win, like you said. I'm very glad me pitting and most everyone else staying out worked out for me this time, unlike Bristol.
Yeah, Larry, congratulations, man. I'm huge win tonight. I have a two-part question for you. The first part is, did you have any idea that pitting on lap 8 would set you up to possibly win the race with still so much left in the race? And then the part 2 of that question is, how much momentum does this give you going into the playoffs?
I feel like it gives me pretty decent momentum. Yeah, I saw we can go about 46, 47, maybe 48 on fuel, something like that. And I figure with 7 or 8 laps, that would put me right on the money to maybe making a two-stop and going against some of these guys. I definitely wanted to try it no matter what.
I mean, it certainly was a gutsy call. At some points, we weren't sure how the strategies were going to line up. We know Zach was the one that was really putting the pressure of those that were dealing with the three-stop. Were you shocked on how close Zach was closing in on you there late in that race?
Not really. I was paying attention to him and Nick Crawford the whole race because I saw the first 4 run. Zach was still a couple seconds at least ahead of, I think, Benjamin at the time before Zach pitted again. So I knew Zach was pitting at the right times to maximize his time. And I just knew he would come on strong, but I was really hoping by the time he was starting to make ground on me, about 10 or so to go, tires would even out enough to where he wouldn't really have a chance.
Well, lined up perfectly for yourself to get into victory lane. Congratulations on this win, Larry. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours.
Definitely shout out all my teammates this race, Ryan Kelly and James Heater, along with Deontric, James, and Carolyn watching, and to my sponsors, Muffin Sports Cards and Port City Cards on Instagram if you are interested in the hobby of collecting cards. And if you are interested in weight training or nutrition, check out Daniel Payne 1 on Instagram, virtual or in person near the Shreveport, Louisiana area, and Cody Glencock's music on Spotify, YouTube, and TikTok. And shout out to you guys, especially Robert, for always putting this stuff on. And looking forward to Dega. Hopefully I have all 4 fenders on after the race.
Oh, we cannot wait to see how you're going to perform heading into the playoffs, Larry. Congratulations on finally getting your win here at the end of the regular season, and good luck going for championship number 4.
Thank you, sir.
Well, from victory lane, let's go down to second place with a driver that was gunning for the win, almost got it done. The strategy was just almost there for the win for himself, but we have Nick Crawford with us. Nick, coming away with second place here tonight. You were the last of the drivers that weren't 100% locked in before this race was concluded. How was the stress coming into tonight's race, and how are you feeling coming away with a second place finish?
I'm just glad that I wasn't wrecked or I didn't get into a wreck. So there was no stress. It was either make it or don't. I'm really just glad to be back in WSSR. It's been a while. So it's going to be fun either way.
Yeah, Nick, congrats on a really strong runner-up finish tonight, man. My question is same thing I had for Larry. Did you have any idea that pitting on that very first caution would put you in position to run it out? And I know Charlotte has green flag tendencies, but did you have any idea it was going to put you in this kind of situation to capitalize on that call?
No, not at first. When I pit, it was just to get fresher tires because I know in the Gen 4, the tires are there's a big difference versus the laps. So I pit for tires because I was in the back anyways. And then we were about to go green and the teammates, they kind of mentioned it. I was like, oh, okay. And then all the way through that first run, I was thinking about just pitting with the teammates, but then I was seeing that Larry was staying out. And I was like, there's a chance we could do this because Larry's a little bit smarter than me when it comes to racing. But yeah, I didn't really make that decision until late in the run.
Well, this first round of the playoffs eliminates 6 drivers after this first round, being at Talladega Auto Club. What are your thoughts heading into this playoffs now that you're solidified, you're in, and you're running for a championship?
I would say I'm excited. At Daytona, we had a really good team strategy, teamwork, and we were controlling the race until made a mistake on the pit road. So as long as I can get on the pit road for green flag stops, Talladega will be okay. Of course, there's gonna be wrecks, but those can be random. Auto Club, I like that track. I don't think I've raced that track in this car, so we'll have to see. But I'm just gonna take it as it is.
Well, Nick, we can't wait to see how you're going to perform in the playoffs. Congratulations on a second place finish here tonight. And before we officially let you go, the floor is now yours for any shoutouts.
Of course, as always, I have to shout out my beautiful wife. She supports me in every way, racing or not. Shout out to you guys for doing a really good broadcast. Love watching these back. Shout out to Snowy Desert. They actually, they helped me tonight with the strategy, even if it was by accident. Yeah, and then just shout out the whole league.
Well, that's going to be the 74 machine and Nick Crawford coming away with the second place finish. Congratulations and good luck at the wildcard race at Talladega next week.
Thank you.
Well, from second place, let's go down to third. The driver that marched his way forward and was the highest finisher of those that go with the 3-stop strategy under green flag conditions. We have Zach Hall with us. Zach, congratulations on third place here tonight. Man, how are you feeling? You ran Charlotte last night, and then you run it here tonight. 2 completely different cars, a lot of different strategies. How are you feeling with a third place finish at the end of all of it?
Actually, pretty happy. I think, if we could have pit on that first one, I think we could have been sitting in victory lane with the pace we had tonight for sure. It felt good out there. Led some laps, and I think I hit the strategy on the head, right on point for not pitting there. Unless Ryan, I got to give him credit because he didn't pit and he saved the whole time. So it showed that it was possible with that caution to stretch it out and make the 2-stop work. But with how fast we were running up front, I just didn't think it was going to work, and decided to go just aggressive with the strategy. It was like, the only way I'm going to catch these guys who are doing the 2-stop is pitting as soon as possible. So we went with that, and personally, it worked out very, very well. So I'm thoroughly happy with third. I think it's some good momentum heading into the playoffs. I don't got no playoff points, but we'll try to go into Talladega and maybe make some room there.
Well, Zach, I've got to be the first one to apologize to you because I pitched you live on the broadcast. I felt like you absolutely nailed the strategy tonight. I was watching your lap times, and I truly thought you were going to be able to get those 2 guys. So I apologize for the commentator's curse, but still a really strong effort tonight. Yeah, talk a little bit about the playoffs, Zach. I mean, you've been running really, really strong every week in this series. Haven't quite gotten that win yet, but I feel like it's coming. How do you feel about Talladega and Auto Club going into the first round?
Well, Talladega, we know how that can be, right? Plate racing, it's definitely a wild one. So, I mean, we saw what Daytona turned into. Hopefully, we don't turn into that big of a mess for us there. Hopefully, a little bit more racing room will equate to better racing overall and just people being a little bit more patient, especially with more on the line with the playoffs. So, I think some guys will be a little bit more cautious to make moves. So, I'm interested to see how that plays out. But then going in the Auto Club, I'm actually really, really excited for that one. That personally might be the one I have circled in the playoffs to say, hey, that's the track that I really feel like I can go get a win. I feel like we've had 2 or 3 slip away from this season. So we'll go for the championship, of course. But at the end of the day, I just want to win a race here because, I mean, this competition it's intense, man. These guys, they push you every single night, and to be close to getting those victories, it's just been a little bit bittersweet, but I think at some point we can get done.
Well, Zach, we cannot wait to see how you're going to perform heading into the playoffs. And before we officially let you go, the floor is now yours for any shoutouts.
Well, first off, shout out to all the drivers out there. Amazing job by them. We only had that first caution there on like lap 7, I think, and it went green. And with all the cautions we had the past few weeks, I kind of got that fear of pitting and using a set of tires. So I was like, oh, we'll get a caution most likely. And it never came. So congrats to the league. Congrats to the drivers. That was some thoroughly good driving from everybody, lots of different strategies. So really impressed with the league as an admin. So that's always great to take that after a bumpy road we had last week at Dover. Also, shout out to the teammates there at Snowy Desert Racing, Christopher Norris, Benjamin Nelson, and Nick Crawford. I'm glad Nick had an excellent run that got him locked into and move on to the final 16 there, or sorry, the playoff 16. So great for him there. And then Ben, unfortunately, I think he had tons of speed to win tonight. Just strategy didn't work out for him. So great run from the teammates. And then last but not least, not last but not least, you guys up in the booth for all y'all do, and also our sponsors at World Series of Sim Racing here, TrophySmack.com and Roasted Gems Coffee, two of the best sponsors the league could ask for.
Well, that will be the 32 machine as Zach Hull. Congratulations on a third place finish here tonight, and good luck at the wild card at Talladega to start the playoffs off.
Thank you, guys.
Well, from our third place finisher, we're actually going to do our top three. The reasoning why is fourth place finisher Ryan Kelly. Surprising run. He saved the fuel, got a fourth place finish, and it was enough positions to get him to 25th in points. His win counts. Ryan, congratulations on a top 5 finish, and congratulations, you are fighting for a championship this season.
Yeah, thank you. I'm super excited. It was tough after last week. Had a good run going, and unfortunately got taken out. So came down to the wire in this race, but thankfully just saved enough there at the end, and we're gonna go for a championship.
Yeah, Ryan, we were keeping track of where you were at all night, and you alluded to last week just the disappointment after you dominated the first half of the race and then got caught up in that mess, but still really strong run tonight, get you in the top 25, get you in the playoffs. How do you feel about the playoffs now? For that first round is looking a little scary for some drivers with Talladega and Auto Club. So how do you think you match up for that first round?
Yeah, it should be interesting. Talladega is definitely going to be crazy. It's anybody can win there, so that'll be an interesting one. And I think Auto Club, you said, was the next one. That's a great track. Do multiple grooves, high line, low line. So that should be a really good race. One of my favorite tracks. So it should be good the first round, and hopefully we'll just take it round by round, and I'll be there at the end.
Well, Ryan, again, congratulations on making the playoffs. A great run here tonight. What was the mindset coming into tonight, knowing that you were 30th in points, you had to gain 5 positions if you wanted a chance to fight for the championship and have that win count that you got earlier in the season? What was the mentality coming into tonight's race?
Yeah, it was tough because I knew I had to be aggressive to try and finish as best as I could, but I also had to be conservative to make it there and just finish the race, unlike last week. So it was going hard at the beginning, but then after that early caution, I realized I should have pit and I didn't. It was a good move on Larry. Nice win to him and all the other guys that did. So just kind of just started saving gas early in the race and was riding around with my fingers crossed, hoping they would be enough.
And it was. Again, congratulations, Ryan. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, all the teammates tonight. It's always good practicing and racing with them. They're helping me in practice and during the race, and all the sponsors for the league. Really big shout out to them, and you guys up in the booth, of course, for always putting on a great show.
Well, thanks for giving us a great show to call. That's going to be the 3 machine of Ryan Kelly, 4th place finisher here tonight. Congratulations for taking the final spot as well of the playoffs, and good luck in this first round and with wild card of Talladega next week.
Oh yeah, thank you, gentlemen.
Well, that's going to be the 3 machine of Ryan Kelly as we finish up our interviews with our top 4. We have been given the list of drivers that we'll be running for a championship. We already had ourselves locked in, but first we're going to start things off with our sponsors because honestly, this season has been a great one. And it has been a pleasure to have these sponsors with the WSSR, being a Roasted Gems Coffee, Roasted Gems Coffee, premium coffee to go have for yourself. And it's a great way to start your day off right with going to roastedgemscoffee.com. Remember to use the promo code WSSR for 5% off. As well, check out their merch line. It's a pretty good one to check out. And Trophy Smack. Trophy Smack, if you're looking for a trophy for any type of reason, if it's for Little League, maybe it's for a sporting event, or you just want to have a trophy to show off to people around you, Trophy Smack is your place to go. And remember to use promo code WSSR Smack for 10% off on all purchases. And and as well been the sponsor for the last couple of seasons for qualifying, that of Brandon Colley's mom. Thank you so much to all of those that have helped sponsored. Let's take a look at our unofficial results in the way that we got to our 16 drivers that will be running for a championship this season. Here at Charlotte, it was a good one for the Speed Shirt Laps 225, but Larry Yingling, two-stop strategy, hit it under our first yellow, topped up on fuel on that last opportunity he could. There was enough space to get that 67 into victory lane. Nick Crawford as well, one of those drivers that pitted on that first yellow, gonna come in second. Zach Hull third. Ryan Kelly sneaking his way into the playoffs in fourth. Nolan Hicks sadly will not be running for a championship, but he'll finish fifth here tonight. Douglas Newbegin, last week's winner, salvages, caught up in her only caution of the day, but gets a sixth place finish. Ross Tatum seventh, eighth goes to Shane Terrian, ninth goes Cedric Hunter, and Brian P. Johnson falls all the way down to 10th.
And as we look at some of the drivers just outside the top 10, Joshua Kanata, really solid night, finishing 11th. Kyle Rochelle finishing 12th. Ken Campbell, one of those drivers that was not quite locked in. Just kind of a quiet night for Ken, but he did what he had to do, so he'll be one of those 16 drivers racing for a championship. Brian Noel finishes 14th. He's going to be our last bubble man, and he makes it in to the 16 drivers to race for a championship. Brandon Colley finishes 15th. Benjamin Nelson, really tough finish for Benjamin after a really strong run tonight. He was with the fuel strategy as well. Ran out on the very last lap. Sam ends up finishing 16th. And then as we look a little bit further down, we see Ali Fonseca. Unfortunately, he is going to be the odd man out and will not race for a championship, finishing 20th tonight. And a couple other drivers, not the best night that they were hoping for. But overall, Sam, I mean, what a race. We saw all kinds of different strategies play out, and it was Larry England that ends up coming out on top.
Yeah, and continuing on with our trends of 1.5 mile tracks are bigger, bringing out less than 10 cautions. The last couple of 1.5 mile tracks have been either 1 or 5 cautions, and tonight we only had 1 here this evening, being the least amount of caution flags ever thrown at a Charlotte race out of all the WSSR races in the past. Congratulations for the field for taking that history marker. I know it's one that they would like to have. Comparatively to the last couple of weeks, it's been a rough one, but it's time to settle down, get prepared. Playoff racing action begins next week, and the 16 drivers running for a championship going to be Benjamin Nelson, top of the board on playoff points because of all 3 wins that he grabbed this season. Those are extra bonus points that's going to help out that 79 machine into the playoffs. Shane Terrian, regular season champion, going to be second driver. Brandon Colley with his win is now into the playoffs. Ross Tatum, Douglas Newbegin, Cedric Hunter, John Forbes, Larry Yingling, Zach Hull, and Brian Johnson were the 10 drivers automatically locked in to the playoffs before tonight started. Once the green flag was thrown, Christopher Norris was locked in. Same for Joshua Kanata, giving us 12 drivers that were locked in. We needed to figure out the last 4 spots. Who was in, who was out? Well, here's where they lined up. It goes to Nick Crawford, Ken Campbell, and like Josh said, not able to make it in is Ali Fonseca. Instead, it's Brian Noel, and with Ryan Kelly getting 5 points positions in the points, his win counts, and he will take the final spot in the playoffs. 16 drivers, they're all strong, and honestly, all 16 of these drivers could win it any week coming up into the playoffs.
They very well could, Sam, and we've harped on it all regular season, and it's come down to now it's time for the playoffs. So much talent this league. We got 16 drivers. I really feel like half of them are very capable of winning this championship, Sam. So no pressure. We're just going to the biggest wild card on the circuit next week at Talladega, and I mean, with only 2 races, Sam, you really can't afford to start off on a bad foot, because if you dig yourself a hole, it could spell trouble with 6 drivers being out after the first round.
Yeah, I mean, this first round, we are going to an over 2 mile course and then a 2 mile course. It is not going to be any type of simplicity that these drivers are getting into. We're going to see a lot of 3 wide, 4 wide, maybe even 5 wide at these next 2 tracks. So you're not going to want to miss a thing. If you haven't already, remember hit that subscribe button and the bell notification button to be notified when we go live here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Sharing the broadcast is a big way to help us, as well as liking our videos. But the big thing is once our broadcasts are over, go down to the comment section. Comment what you thought was the best moment of the race. Was it the wreck? Was it the finish? Was it the strategy? Give us your opinion on what you thought was the best moment of the race, as all these races have been fabulous this week, but it gets even tougher as tomorrow night, our next broadcast here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, more Gen 4 action for the Stars and Stripes Racing Series, heading to Martinsville. And Josh, we talked about it a little bit under commercial break. Tomorrow's going to be a tough one for all those drivers.
Yeah, I'm one of those drivers, Sam. So I'm excited. Martinsville's my home track, so hopefully we'll have a strong run. But yeah, I'm nervous with we talked about the bumpers not lining up, and Martinsville's pretty notorious for some beating and banging and some hot tempers. So I think it could be a wild one tomorrow. We'll see. Everyone should tune in.
They really should, and that's going to be our next broadcast. Then we take the weekend off. Monday night, more playoff action. It's the cutoff race of the round of 16. Who moves on to the round of 12? You'll find out Monday night for the ISRC Truck Series. Then Tuesday, still in the regular season, but it's the final push. Who will be in the playoffs? Only 12 drivers make it to the playoffs for the full Send Racing Series on Tuesday. Then back here next week. Who's in? Who's out? Well, we've got our answers. It's playoff racing for the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. It's tackling Talladega next week in these Gen 4 cars. If you missed out on how Daytona went, it's going to be a lot of teamwork and a lot of patience and hoping that you survive to that last lap for a chance to win. Can't wait for it. It's going to be a lot of great racing action. And for tonight, thank you so much to all those that viewed, commented throughout the night. And we cannot wait for our next broadcast, as we've got our 16 drivers. Hopefully you're ready for the playoffs. Should be a good one next week. But tomorrow night, that's going to be the Stars and Stripes, Gen 4's Martinsville. Who's going to survive this short track? You'll have to find out on our next Freaky Fast broadcast.